Nicole, and welcome to this episode of the Nicole Stitches podcast. I am a left-handed crocheter, knitter, and general crafter coming to you from Northern Virginia, where I work and live with my husband, our cat Webster, and our kitten Birdy. You can keep up with me on Instagram at NicoleSPDesigns, on Ravelry as she writes things, on Pinterest at NSP Designs, and in my shop, nspdesigns.com, where I make and sell handmade project bags, notions pouches, and other fiber accessories, as well as original crochet patterns. There is a Ravelry group for the podcast, and you can go there to find a Get to Know Us thread where you can introduce yourself and get to know other members of the group, a Q&A thread where you can leave me questions that I'll answer in a future video, and it's where you will find the monthly pattern giveaway thread where you can enter to win a pattern of your choice from the preceding month. Last video was supposed to be when I opened the May thread. It did not open yet, but now that I'm recording this week's episode, I will get that thread open. So if you're interested in entering the giveaway, it is a monthly thing. It is always very simple. You can go to the group, join the group, and find the rules and everything there. Again, it's always very straightforward and easy. So check that out if you are interested. The link to the Ravelry group and all my other socials are in the description below the video. If you're looking to keep up with me, I am most active on Instagram. So welcome to episode 89. Kind of wild to think that we're on episode 89 already, but here we are. I have new stuff for you this week. I have 2 new starts. I have developments on things that I shared with you last week. No new in my queue, but I just didn't have enough queue things for you this week. That's kind of been the case lately. I've kind of been almost on an every other episode cycle with that in a way. I have a little bit of shop news, and I'm going to get started. So let me show you. I will start with this since it's been in progress for a little bit. You've seen this one before. This is the Belle Cardigan by Nadia Cretin-Lechenne, I think. And this is I am knitting this in KnitPicks Mighty Stitch Worsted, which is an acrylic blend in the colorway silver. We are all twisted up here. Hold on. There we are. Okay, so you can see where I was last episode and where I am now. Haven't put a ton of work in on this, but that's okay. That's just how things go sometimes. But here we are. This is a baby cardigan, and again, I'm knitting it in worsted weight yarn, but this is supposed to be a sport weight sweater, so it is turning out at a bigger gauge. I'm knitting the smallest size, but it's probably going to be more like a 6-month size or maybe even a 9-month size. I don't really know the size of babies. I would have to look at the measurements when I'm done and those on the pattern and kind of figure out what size it actually is. So that is this project. I don't have a ton to say on it this week. I didn't really do much with it, not because there's any problem with it, I just was paying attention to other things. But what's nice about it is that it is a very small sized project and it is worsted weight yarn. So it does go quickly when I am working on it. And next I have not 1, but 2 new starts for you. One of them is with yarn that you've already seen, and one of them is something that I was debating last week. I had a lot has changed. So last week I showed you a top that was from my Make 12 of 12 sweaters that I wanted to knit in 2020. It was the Whakairo top by Aroha Knits, and I was going to make that in KnitPicks Comfy Fingering, which is a fingering weight cotton blend yarn in the color Celestial, which is this bright blue color that's really fun. And I had cast that on and had just gotten started, just barely. So here's what happened. I got about 1.5 inches into the ribbing. It is a bottom up top design, and you begin with a couple inches of ribbing, as is the standard. And I had gotten, now for a fingering weight sweater, yes, can I help you? Would you like to come up here? We have Birdy here for a visit. Would you like to say hello before we move on? There she is. Now for a fingering weight bottom up top, in my size, I needed to cast on about, like, I don't know, I think it was like 250 something stitches. That's not correct, but it was like somewhere in that ballpark, in fingering weight yarn, and then doing that ribbing. And as you can imagine, that is very tedious. Ribbing is like not my favorite part of a sweater. The like neckline and sleeve and hem ribbing, you know, when it's 1 by 1 and it's just not my favorite part. Especially when you're doing it with cotton yarn generally does not have very much stretch to it or like give in terms of elasticity. So it can be like a little bit that much more kind of tedious. But I got about 1.5 inches into it, and everything was going fine. And then I realized that it was twisted. I try so hard when I cast on sweaters and join in the round to not twist my stitches, because I don't want that exact thing to happen. I want to just get my knitting done and go, and everything is fine and we're all set. And I tried, but I had twisted at some point my work, and it was not good. It was not good. It was not fixable. It was twisted, and there was nothing I could do about it but rip out and start over. And that was not a fun feeling. And so basically I kind of had a little talk with myself in that moment. When I realized that I had twisted my work and I was going to have to rip out and restart, I just kind of took a pause on all my project plans, and I had to be realistic and honest with myself. So as we all know, it is currently a weird, scary, unprecedented, uncertain time out there, and things can feel really strange and overwhelming, and it's just a strange time right now. And sometimes you get that sense of overwhelm, and I and my loved ones have been very fortunate in this time, which I am every day incredibly thankful for. But it's still, you know, you get pretty furious when you read the news and see what's going on, and it feels very overwhelming. And sometimes even being in a, you know, more secure position in a lot of ways, it feels very overwhelming. And I think I had that in my head. I was kind of feeling overwhelmed that day by everything. And here's the thing about that top. I will put a picture in here if I haven't already. It is beautiful. It is a pattern that I have been in love with since I saw it first, when Frenchie of Aroha Knits, when she posted it. It was originally a cowl pattern that she released, and then she loved it so much that she made a sweater pattern. I own both. I've loved both, and I wanted to make them for a really long time. However, the Whakairo top is an entirely cabled front in fingering weight yarn, which I was going to do in cotton yarn, which was, again, there's not much elasticity there, so it was going to be a little bit of a challenge, but I knew that, and I kind of incorporated that into my like mathematics of how I was going to go about this. But last year, if you've been here for a while and are caught up with my videos, I knit a different Aroha knit sweater, which was the Tumanako Pullover. I will try to insert a photo here of that, which is one of my favorite knit pieces ever. It's probably one of the pieces that I am most proud of because of how much of a challenge it was for me. It is a very cabled sweater. It's not like the most cabled one out there, obviously, but the front is cabled. There are cables on the sleeves, and then the back is entirely cabled. I had never done that much cable work before, ever. It was also a very different construction method for me that I had never done before. And it was just a lot of new things that I was learning and juggling at the same time. And I had some challenges with that sweater. I had to rip out mistakes and restart a number of times. I had to make myself a table to track where I was with all the different cables and moving parts because I was getting confused and making mistakes. And it was just a lot. It was a lot, that process. That sweater is definitely a product knit for me, in that I love that finished product. I did not enjoy the process. And that is nothing against Frenchie and her patterns. I think she does absolutely beautiful work. She is a wonderful part of our community. She is a mentor and has wonderful insight and leadership, and I love like all of her patterns. They're all either in my queue or in my library, all or most of them. And she does absolutely gorgeous work. So I don't say this to say anything against her. I love her work and admire her greatly, but that sweater was a process for me and it was not necessarily super fun. And so when I realized that I had twisted my stitches on the Whakairo, granted the Whakairo is a short sleeve top with only the front cabled, so it's not nearly as much cable work. But when I realized that I had twisted them and I was going to have to rip it out and start all over, I really thought, okay, what do I want out of my knitting right now? Because like in a grand scheme kind of way, because this could be another situation where I'm getting myself into a process where I've already started and ripped out once and had something frustrating happen. And if I cast this on again, I have to cast on 200 and whatever stitches again. I have to make sure they're not twisted. I have to do all that ribbing. And then I have to get into this big lace panel and do all this lace and cabling. And I already have a cable sweater on the needles, the Belle Isle. Granted, it's a very simple cable pattern. It's a smaller project with bigger yarn, so it's faster. But I was just thinking, do I want to do this? I'm already feeling overwhelmed by the situation that we are all in at large. And I'm wanting to turn to knitting and crochet and cross stitch as my like therapeutic place of kind of turning to creating something to pull my mind out of the spiral of what's going on and to bring me peace and to soothe me. And I thought about it and what I wanted out of knitting and what I wanted out of this project, and did I still really want to knit this top right this second? And I did not. I just didn't. I didn't feel like it. I didn't want to get into that project, and I just couldn't make myself do it. So with that, I have changed what my Make 12 for 2020 looks like. This was something that I've already been debating in recent months, not switching out the Whakairo top in particular, but just making a change to the whole Make 12 goal in general, just based on like what I had in there, and it's not a big deal. So the idea of like changing my little grid wasn't that earth-shattering to me. You know, it is what it is. It's just like a wish list of stuff to do for my year, so it doesn't matter. But it does mean that I am changing things. So while I have great love for Aroha Knits and her work and great respect for her, and I still love the Whakairo top, and I absolutely would love to knit one day, it's still very much something that I want to make. I'm not going to do it right now, and I don't even know if I'm going to do it this year. Simply don't. So I ripped out, and I had my little talk with myself, and I rewound the yarn that I had frogged into cakes. I looked in my library, I looked in my queue, I looked around for sweaters that had caught my attention. So I decided to use this as my starting point rather than going all the way back to square one and having to like find a yarn combination and everything. I was like, no, I'm gonna find something that works with this yarn and go from there. So I debated a few different options, and I settled on one that has been on my radar for a long time. Many people have made it, and look, it looks great on everyone somehow, which is just a wonderful thing about when a pattern does that. It's just, I love it. And this is the Ripple crop top by Jessie Maed. She has a few different Ripple pieces at this point. It's like a little capsule collection. There is the Ripple crop top, the Ripple worsted. Both of those are short-sleeved crop tops. The Ripple is in fingering weight, which is what I'm making, and then the worsted is in worsted. There's also the Ripple bralette, and then there are the Ripple butt shorts, which are the newest thing that she has come out with, and I love them so much. They're definitely on my queue, but you know, we'll get there. So that is what I settled on. So again, I am knitting this in KnitPicks Comfy Fingering, which is a fingering weight cotton yarn. I think it's an 80-20 Pima cotton and acrylic blend. And here's my progress. So this is what I have so far. I started this. it was over the weekend that I had this little change of plans, a little redirection here. And this is what I have so far. So this is a bottom-up top, and it's very simple. It is just, you know, I'm just knitting some ribbing. And I know I said that knitting fingering weight ribbing for sweater hems and collars is not my jam, but this is a much wider ribbing. This is not 1x1. And it's literally all I have to do. All I have to do on this for many inches is just knit my ribbing, knit, purl, purl, around and around and around. And that is exactly what I was looking for. I can pick up. I don't even have to look at the pattern right now. I can just pick it up and get to work on it and just go and go and go, and I can. Last night my friend had a meteor shower on their island in Animal Crossing. So I literally had my switch in my, like, on my knees, and then I had my knitting right here, and I was just knitting around, and when I heard the meteor come by, I would hit the button on my switch to make a wish on the star, and then I would go back to my knitting, and it was the best thing. I don't have to keep track of a chart. I don't have to keep track of a cable needle. I don't have to count my stitches or anything. I can just look. I mean, I'm just talking to you right now, not even looking at the work, not doing a great job of purling here, but you know, I barely even have to look at this. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to count or track a single thing. I just, you know, when it starts to get close to the length where I want to make the armholes, then I have to measure, and that's pretty much it. And this really, starting this was such a, like, I don't want to say it was such a relief after the Whakairo, because again, I don't hate that pattern. I love it. And I do want to make it one day, but just, it's like a little bit of a balm after that moment of frustration and really needing to get honest with myself about what I wanted to be doing right now. And it's great. It's in the same project bag that I had the Whakairo in. This is a fabric. I really love this. I did this in my shop last year. It was limited edition, so it's not available anymore, but it's a favorite. And I'm a lot happier. I'm very happy that I decided to cast that on. And I think maybe there's a lesson in there about being more chill. Just, you know, I think some people are very hard on themselves about knitting mistakes or having to start projects over or changing their minds. I think the creation of like a make 9 or make 12 or make however many, like a yearly plan, can be really good in a lot of ways, but I've seen a lot of people have these like hand-wringy posts on Instagram and on Ravelry where they have this, like, you know, they have to have this whole essay that justifies changing their make 9, which I did kind of just give you a little bit of a verbal essay about why I did it, but I think it was more of like a thought process and less about like, now this is very hard for me and I can't believe I'm going against my plan and I know I'm breaking the rules. It's like, we're all doing this for therapy, you know? We're all doing this for leisure, for love, for fun, for creativity, and it's okay if you don't want to knit something right now and you'd rather make something else and knit that first thing later, or honestly, if you decide that you never want to knit it after all, then never knit it. It's okay. You know, we gotta be nicer to ourselves. We gotta be gentle with ourselves, especially right now. Everything else is kind of crap right now. So, you know, if you want to change your mind about a knitting project, change your damn mind. It's okay. You know, relax. It doesn't have to be this thing. You don't have to apologize to anybody. You don't have to be hard on yourself. Just do it. Just change your mind. And that is my takeaway for the day. Change your damn mind. It's okay. Be nice to yourself. So that is the state of that project. I did frog my Whakairo. No disrespect to Frenchie and Aroha Knits. Will knit it later. Simply cannot right now. Simply cannot. And the other issue project that I was talking about last week was a debate about shawls. I recently finished my ephemeris shawl, which was patterned by Deborah Gerhard. It took me months and months to do because I kept neglecting it. And I was having a debate about what I wanted to start next. Well, I started something and it's in this project bag. Now this bag, you'll notice, is very full. That's because there are 3 extra cakes of yarn in here. I'm not using them for this project. They are in here because Birdy is a yarn fiend and I needed a place to keep these cakes. I needed to like shove them a place for a minute to get them out of her sight so she would leave them alone, and I haven't taken them out yet. So I'm gonna remove them real quick, and then we'll talk about what I'm actually knitting. So in this bag, which is one of my favorite things I've ever made in my life, I love this fabric so much, is the Leventry shawl by Sarah Jordan. And this is another one that I think was really just, if I'm honest, exactly what I was looking for out of knitting right now. It is a very simple shawl pattern. To be quite honest with you, I have lost the pattern. It is somewhere in the apartment. I do not know where. And that's okay, because I don't need it right now, because what you're gonna do for like many stitches is a few rows of stockinette and then a garter ridge. And that's literally it. It's wonderful. So I am knitting this in 2 colors from Plank and Stella, which is one of my favorite indie yarn dyers. I love her work so much. Her colors are so fun. Her colorway names are great. Melissa is very talented, and I think that she deserves much more publicity for her yarn than she currently has, in my personal opinion. But I am knitting 2 colors of Plank and Stella. This is Love on Top, which is this beautiful, it's reading very red on camera right now from what I can see, which it is. It's like a very hot pinkish, reddish hot pink. It's definitely pinker in person than it looks on camera, but I love this. And then this is Vintage Lingerie. Let me see if I can find the label in the bag to tell you about the yarn itself, the blend, etc. This is a sock base. Here's a couple sock bases. This is 4-ply sock, 75/25 superwash merino and nylon. So that is the base. Here's the yarn label. You can see it, Plank and Stella. And I will show you my progress here. Ooh. So you can see here my progress is thus. And this is also something that I cast on over the weekend. I believe I cast this on Saturday, and I have not put a ton of time into it, but even not putting a ton of time into it, you can see I'm making good progress. So I'm using Vintage Lingerie as my kind of main color, and Love on Top is the ridges, and then the kind of finishing piece of the Leventry is a lace edge, which will be in Love on Top. I am really enjoying this. This is another thing. This, like the ripple crop top, is just something that is so soothing to me right now. It is bringing me such a calming sense when I sit down to work on it, because it is that like easy and intuitive to do. I know, you know, every row, I know what I have to do. I don't have to look at the pattern. I don't have to keep track of a chart or count anything. I can just, you know, I know where the increases go. I know what to do, and it's great. It's a really nice, and again, no disrespect to the Ephemeris shawl or that designer, but that was a pattern that I had to keep right on hand the whole time. I had to be, you know, checking that pattern every couple rows. I had washi tape that I would mark off where I was, so I made sure I read the correct row. It's a beautiful finished piece, and I'm so glad I have it, but it was kind of a thinky project for me, and this is nice. So I now have 2 projects on the needles that are just doing what I just need things to do sometimes, which is being meditative and easy for me, and nothing deeper than that, and I love it. I do think that the Leventry is going to be a nice quick knit for that reason, so that's exciting. And if you're wondering, last week I had a small, very casual crisis about shawl plans, and I'd said I was debating 2 different Casa Pinka shawl patterns to be knit soon as well, the olive pink or the goldfish memory. And if you're wondering if I made a decision about which will be next, I did not, and I don't appreciate you asking, because I don't know. So, you know, it's fine. I will cross that bridge when I get there. I just cast this on, so I don't even think about it for a whole shawl. So relax, everybody. And this is going to be the last work in progress that I show you this week. You have not seen this one in a little bit, and quite honestly, it's not much different from the last time you saw it, but I did make a little bit of progress, and I thought I would just show it for the sake of showing it, because it's been a minute. This is the Mario Level Birth Record by NERDpillo on Etsy. This is a cross-stitch project. It is a birth record for my niece Lydia, who was born in March, and it's going to look like a Mario level when it's done. You can see the beginnings of something over here. And I have just been stitching on this cloud for a while. Granted, I have been a little bit irregular working on this lately, but I'm almost done with this cloud. So this is why I haven't been showing it the last couple weeks, is because I've just been filling this in and it didn't really look like I was doing much. But we're making progress here. And after this cloud is done, I get to do all the fun stuff. I do need to finish outlining this box here, which is where all of Lydia's like birth details are gonna go. But after that, after I make the box, I think I want to do her name last. The rest of the pattern is much more exciting than stitching in details in black. So I think I want to do some like fun parts of the pattern before I move on to that. But I'm really getting to the part of this where it's going to be like lots of fun little Mario bits that really bring me a lot of happiness. So I just thought I would show this to you. It may or may not look like any different from last time you saw it, but I do promise that I have done parts. And it's going, it's getting places. I've had a little bit of hand and wrist pain this week. I think that's due to the cotton yarn of the Ripple crop top. Not that I am not enjoying that pattern, but sometimes the lack of elasticity in cotton yarn can be a little bit hard on the hands if you do a lot of knitting with it, kind of in one sitting. So to make sure that I give myself breaks, I have been doing some more cross stitch. So that is all of my stuff for the week, all of the things that are in progress that I've worked on since last I showed you. I do have one thing for the shop and then I'm gonna head out. So coming to the shop this week, a new fabric for you that I've had for a little bit and just finally got around to being able to crank out the various bags and products that I make with it. This fabric, Tiny Scissors. If you've been here a minute, you know that I love tiny scissors. I have a stupid amount of tiny scissors. I have so many different kinds in all kinds of colors and shapes. I just love them so much and they really are handy. I've even been using a pair recently to trim my bangs at home because the quarantine made me stop at a lot of things, but it's not stopping my bangs from growing. So I have been using them for many purposes lately. And when I saw this fabric, I had to bring it to the shop. I love it so much. So this is a large project bag. I still have to put the drawstrings into the large bags, but there will be 2 of these in the shop. There will also be medium bags, project pouches, and DPN cozies. And if you're curious, this is what the inside fabric looks like. I think that these go together so nicely, in my opinion. It's like all the same colors, and I just love this effect. Is so interesting, and I just really liked it, so I used it. So that is coming to the shop. They're not quite listed yet, but by the time this goes up, they probably will be. This is the only bag that I have to show you right now. Mediums and the other things are not done enough to be shown, but they will all be going up at the same time. So keep an eye out for that. I wanted y'all to be the first to know. And that is my episode. I'm gonna head out. So I wanted to thank you so much for watching. If you were new, I hope you decide to stay. And if you were a return viewer, thanks for coming back. I would like to see you stay as well. If you want to know every time there's a new video, hit the subscribe button and you will be notified every time I upload. Give me a like and a comment. They help me out a whole lot. I hope you and your loved ones and community are able to stay well during this time and that things are okay for you and you're feeling good, staying home, etc. Good thoughts and energy to everyone. Be easy on yourself at this time and on other people. I hope we're all learning to be a little bit kinder to one another and to ourselves during this time. I hope you have a great week. Get lots of crafting done and I will see you next time. Bye!